You are lying down. The day is behind you now. The room is quiet, or quiet enough. And somewhere inside you, in a place you cannot see and will never feel, something is beginning to change. Your heart has already started to slow, not because it is tired, though perhaps you are. It is slowing because it knows what is coming. The fast, alert rhythm of your waking hours is softening into something deeper, something more deliberate. And this shift is not random. It is a signal, a preparation. The opening movement of a process so old and so precise that every creature that has ever drawn breath has surrendered to it. You call it falling asleep, but what happens next is not falling at all. From the outside, sleep looks like nothing. It looks like absence, a blank space between today and tomorrow where nothing of consequence occurs. You close your eyes. Time passes. You open them again. And the world continues. That is how it appears. That is what it feels like. But from the inside, from the perspective of your cells, your blood, your bones, your brain, sleep is one of the most extraordinary events of your entire day. More is happening inside your body during a single night of rest than most people realize happens in a week. Tonight, if you let yourself drift, your body will begin a cascade of healing that touches nearly every system you possess. Your muscles will be rebuilt. Your bones will be quietly reshaped. Your skin will renew itself at twice its daytime rate. Your immune system will produce billions of new defender cells and send them into circulation. A river of clear fluid will pulse through your brain, washing away the toxic residue of everything you thought and felt today. And deep in the architecture of your mind, the day's memories will be sorted, filed, and gently reorganized so that tomorrow, when you open your eyes, the world will make just a little more sense than it did when you closed them. All of this will happen without a single conscious instruction from you. All of this will happen in the dark. All of this will happen while you dream. Tonight, we are going to travel inward, not into space, not into the ocean depths, but into a landscape just as vast and just as hidden. The landscape of your sleeping body. We will move slowly. We will stay as long as we like with anything that catches our curiosity. And if, at any point along the way, you find yourself drifting off, that is not a failure of attention. That is your body beginning the very work we came here to explore. There is no rush. There is nowhere else you need to be. Have you ever wondered what your body does for you all through the night while you sleep? Let us find out together. If you have just found this channel, you are welcome here. This is the Quiet Laboratory, a place where science is explored slowly, gently, and always with a sense of wonder. If you feel like it, leave a comment and let us know where you are tonight. There is something quietly reassuring about knowing we are not alone under the same sky. To understand what happens inside your body when you sleep, it helps to know something that might seem unrelated at first. For most of human history, nobody knew, not the physicians of ancient Greece, not the scholars of the Renaissance, not the scientists of the 19th century with their microscopes and their careful measurements. For thousands of years, the question of what sleep actually does went almost entirely unasked, because nearly everyone assumed the answer was obvious. Sleep, they believed, was nothing. It was absence. It was the fire of consciousness burning low, the body shutting down like a machine, left idle until morning. Aristotle, one of the most influential thinkers in Western history, believed that sleep was caused by warm vapors rising from the stomach after a meal. The idea seems almost quaint now, but it reflects something deeper than a wrong answer. It reflects the assumption that sleep required no serious explanation, that it was merely the opposite of waking, that whatever mattered in life happened with your eyes open. This assumption persisted for a remarkably long time. It was not until 1929 that the first real crack appeared. In that year, a German psychiatrist named Hans Berger did something no one had done before. He attached small electrodes to the scalp of a living person and recorded the electrical activity of their brain. What he found changed everything, though the world would take decades to fully appreciate it. The brain, Berger discovered, did not go quiet during sleep. It did not power down. It did not become still. The sleeping brain was alive with electrical patterns, rhythmic and organized, as active in its own way as the waking brain, though the patterns were different. This was a revolutionary finding, though it arrived quietly. The brain was doing something during sleep. Not nothing, something. The next great discovery came in 1953 in a laboratory at the University of Chicago. A graduate student named Eugene Azarinsky was studying the sleep patterns of infants when he noticed something peculiar. At certain points during the night, the baby's eyes moved rapidly beneath their closed lids, darting back and forth in coordinated bursts. Azarinsky, working with his advisor, Nathaniel Kleitman, turned his attention to adult sleepers and found the same phenomenon. During these periods of rapid eye movement, the brain's electrical activity surged to levels that resembled wakefulness. The sleepers, when woken during these episodes, reported vivid dreams. They had discovered REM sleep, and with that discovery, the old idea of sleep as a single, uniform, passive state was broken beyond repair. Sleep was not one thing. It was many things, layered and sequenced, unfolding in stages across the night, like movements in a piece of music no one had yet learned to hear. In 1968, two researchers named Alan Rechtschaffen and Anthony Kales published the first standardized system for classifying these stages, giving scientists around the world a shared vocabulary. Now the architecture of sleep could be mapped, measured, and compared. And slowly, carefully, over the decades that followed, a picture began to emerge that no one had anticipated. Sleep was not passive. Sleep was not empty. Sleep was one of the most complex and biologically productive states the human body could enter. Consider, for a moment, the scale of what scientists now know happens during a single night of healthy rest. Your body contains approximately 37 trillion cells. That number is difficult to hold in the mind, and it is meant to be. It is vast beyond ordinary comprehension. During sleep, repair and maintenance processes touch virtually every tissue type among those trillions of cells, from the neurons firing in your brain to the epithelial cells lining your gut. In one night, your body may complete 4 to 6 full sleep cycles, each lasting roughly 90 minutes, each containing distinct stages with different purposes. It may produce a surge of growth hormone powerful enough to rebuild damaged muscle and reshape bone. It may generate billions of new immune cells and send them into your bloodstream. It may clear several grams of toxic metabolic waste from your brain through a system that was entirely unknown to science until 2012. That date bears repeating. Person 2012. The system that cleans your brain while you sleep was discovered only a little more than a decade ago. We have sent spacecraft to the outer edges of our solar system. We have mapped the human genome, we have split atoms, and photographed black holes. And yet the mechanism by which your brain washes itself each night remained hidden until well into the 21st century. This is not a reflection of carelessness or neglect. It is a reflection of how profoundly sleep was underestimated. For centuries, science looked at the sleeping body and saw nothing worth studying. The real work, it was assumed, happened during the day. We now know that assumption was exactly backwards. The real work, the deepest work, the work that makes everything else possible, happens in the dark. There is another fact about sleep that deserves a moment of quiet consideration. Sleep is not unique to humans. It is not unique to mammals. It is not even unique to animals with complex brains. Every species that has ever been studied, from fruit flies to elephants, from jellyfish to dolphins, from worms that live in the soil to whales that cross entire oceans, exhibits some form of sleep or sleep-like behavior. This is a remarkable thing. Evolution is famously efficient. It does not preserve behaviors that serve no purpose. Over hundreds of millions of years, natural selection has experimented with countless strategies for survival. It has produced animals that can live without eyes, without bones, without blood. It has produced creatures that survive in boiling water, in frozen ice, in the vacuum of space. But it has never, in any lineage, in any environment, in any era of life on Earth, produced a complex organism that does not sleep. Whatever sleep provides, it is so essential that evolution has never found a substitute. The healing that occurs during sleep is not optional maintenance, it is survival itself. And this brings us to you, here, now, lying in the quiet at the edge of something your body has been preparing for all day. You may have noticed it building, that gentle heaviness behind the eyes, that softening of your thoughts, that feeling of the world receding, its edges blurring, its sounds growing distant. This is not random fatigue, it is orchestrated. Your body has been quietly building toward this moment since the minute you woke up this morning, and the mechanism behind that building is both simple and elegant. Throughout your waking hours, a molecule called adenosine has been accumulating in your brain. Adenosine is a byproduct of cellular energy use, a kind of metabolic residue that builds up naturally as your neurons fire and your brain consumes energy. The longer you are awake, the more adenosine collects, and the more of it there is, the stronger your urge to sleep becomes. Think of it like sand filling an hourglass. Each hour of wakefulness adds another fine layer. By midday, the glass is half full. By evening, the weight of it is considerable. By now, if you have had a full day, the hourglass is nearly complete, and the pressure to let it turn, to let sleep clear the sand away, is becoming difficult to resist. This is called homeostatic sleep pressure, and it is one of the two great forces that govern when you sleep. The other is your circadian rhythm, an internal clock so precise and so ancient that it has been ticking inside living organisms for billions of years. Your circadian clock lives in a tiny cluster of cells in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It is no larger than a grain of rice. Yet this small gathering of neurons orchestrates the timing of nearly every biological process in your body. It tells your glands when to release hormones, it tells your blood vessels when to dilate, it tells your immune system when to ramp up production, it tells your body temperature when to drop, and it coordinates all of this with the rhythm of light and dark in the world outside, synchronizing your inner biology with the turning of the earth itself. Right now, if it is nighttime where you are, your circadian clock has already begun its evening sequence. Melatonin, the hormone most associated with sleep, has been rising in your blood for the past hour or two, preparing your body for the transition ahead. Your core temperature has started to fall, a purposeful descent of 1 to 2 degrees that will continue through the night. This cooling is not a side effect of rest. It is an active, carefully regulated process that optimizes the conditions for the repair work to come. Your body is not waiting for you to decide to sleep. It has already begun preparing. It has been preparing for hours. And now, gently, the descent begins. The first stage of sleep is barely sleep at all. Scientists call it N1, and it lasts only a few minutes. You are drifting at the boundary, half here and half gone. Your muscles begin to relax. Your breathing steadies. The fast, busy brain waves of wakefulness, the beta waves that accompany alertness and focused thought, begin to slow into the gentler alpha rhythms of relaxation, and then, slower still, into theta waves, the signature of light sleep. You might experience a sudden twitch during this stage, a brief involuntary jerk of a limb called a hypnic jerk. You might see fragmentary images or hear sounds that are not there. You might feel as though you are floating, or falling, or standing at the edge of a vast, dark space. These sensations are normal. They are the small tremors at the threshold, the body's way of negotiating the passage between two very different states of being. And then, quietly, you cross over. The second stage, N2, is where you spend the largest portion of your night. Each cycle of N2 lasts 10 to 25 minutes, and it is here that the body begins to set the stage in earnest for the deep repair work ahead. Your body temperature drops further. Your heart rate slows to a calm, steady rhythm. Your breathing becomes shallow and even, and inside your brain, something remarkable begins to happen. The brain starts producing sleep spindles, brief, rapid bursts of neural oscillation that ripple across the cortex in distinct waves. These spindles are believed to serve multiple purposes. They help shield your sleeping brain from external disturbances, acting like a series of small barriers that prevent noises and sensations from pulling you back to wakefulness. They are the brain's quiet way of hanging a sign on the door: "Do not disturb. Important work is about to begin." Alongside the spindles, the brain produces K-complexes, large, sharp waveforms that appear to play a role in both sensory gating and memory consolidation. Your metabolic rate is decreasing now, energy expenditure dropping to levels well below your waking baseline. This freed energy is not wasted. It is being redirected, rerouted toward the systems that will need it most in the minutes ahead. If sleep were a city, this would be the moment when the streetlights begin to dim, district by district, block by block. Not because the city is failing, but because the power is being deliberately redirected underground to the repair grid, to the infrastructure that keeps everything running. The lights above go dark so that the work below can begin. By the time you reach the third stage, everything is changed. Stage N3, deep sleep, slow wave sleep. The names are clinical, but the reality is anything but. This is the body's primary physical repair window, the deepest and most restorative state you will enter tonight. And what happens here, in this quiet darkness, is extraordinary. Your brain waves have slowed to their deepest rhythm. These are delta waves, the largest and slowest electrical oscillations the human brain produces. They roll through your neural tissue in great, unhurried swells, like the movement of a calm, deep ocean. Each wave can reach amplitudes of up to 200 microvolts, enormous by the standards of brain activity. And in the spaces between these waves, in the deep troughs of neural quiet, your body begins its most essential work. If you are finding peace in this journey tonight, if these quiet words are helping your mind settle, you might consider subscribing to the channel. It costs nothing, and it means more evenings like this one will find their way to you whenever you need them. The first thing that happens during deep sleep is also one of the most remarkable. Within the first 90 minutes of the night, often during this very first descent into slow wave sleep, a small gland at the base of your brain called the pituitary gland releases a powerful surge of growth hormone into your bloodstream. This is not a gentle trickle. It is a concentrated pulse. A single, decisive release that can account for as much as 75% of all the growth hormone your body will produce in an entire 24-hour period. 3/4 of a full day's supply delivered in one quiet moment, while you lie still in the dark. Growth hormone. The name is familiar, and perhaps because of that familiarity, it is easy to underestimate what this molecule actually does. When you were a child, growth hormone was one of the primary signals that told your body to grow taller, to lengthen bones, to build new tissue, to become larger and stronger with each passing year. You might assume that once you stopped growing, once you reached your adult height, this hormone became less important, but that is not the case. Growth hormone remains one of the most powerful repair signals in your adult body. Its job has simply changed. In adulthood, growth hormone does not make you grow taller. Instead, it directs the rebuilding of what the day has worn down. It stimulates the synthesis of new proteins within your muscle cells, repairing the microscopic tears that accumulate through the normal activity of living, through walking, lifting, carrying. Even the simple act of sitting upright against gravity all day, it signals your skin to produce collagen, the structural protein that gives skin its resilience and its ability to heal. It stimulates the metabolism of fat for energy, freeing resources for repair, and it contributes to the remodeling of bone, a process far more dynamic than most people realize. Your skeleton is not the fixed, unchanging framework it appears to be. It is a living tissue, constantly in flux. Specialized cells called osteoclasts spend their existence breaking down old bone, dissolving it back into its mineral components. Other cells called osteoblasts follow behind, laying down fresh bone tissue in its place. This process, called bone remodeling, is regulated in part by your circadian rhythm, and bone formation markers peak during nocturnal sleep. Every night, quietly, without your knowledge, your bones are being reshaped. Growth hormone arrives without fanfare. It does not announce itself. It comes in the deepest dark of the night, like a gardener who tends the flowers while the household sleeps. By morning, the evidence of its work is everywhere, though you may never think to notice it. The slight reduction in muscle soreness, the suppleness of your skin, the quiet structural maintenance of a skeleton that holds you upright for another day. All of it touched by this single molecule, released in one powerful pulse while you lay perfectly still. But growth hormone is only the beginning. During deep sleep, your blood flow is actively redirected. The brain, which during waking hours commands a disproportionate share of your circulatory resources, receives less blood during this stage. Instead, that blood is rerouted toward your muscles, your organs, and your skin. This redistribution is purposeful. It delivers oxygen and nutrients to the tissues that need repair, flooding them with the raw materials required for cellular rebuilding. Your muscles receive this increased supply and put it to immediate use. The reduced metabolic demand on other systems during deep sleep means that amino acids, the building blocks of protein, can be directed preferentially toward muscle protein synthesis. This is not a passive process, it is active construction. New protein structures are being assembled within your muscle fibers, bridging the gaps left by the day's wear, reinforcing the structures that will carry you through tomorrow. This is why athletes require particularly robust sleep. It is why any physically active person wakes feeling restored in a way that no amount of quiet sitting can replicate. The rebuilding happens here, in the deep dark, and nowhere else. Your skin, too, is quietly transforming. During sleep, the rate at which skin cells divide and replace themselves roughly doubles compared to the daytime rate. Blood flow to the skin increases, carrying oxygen and nutrients that support the production of new collagen and the repair of damaged cells. The phrase beauty sleep is not a myth. It is not marketing. It is a measurable biological phenomenon, as real and as quantifiable as a heartbeat. Deeper inside your body, the lining of your gut is undergoing its own renewal. The epithelial cells that form the inner surface of your intestinal wall have one of the fastest turnover rates of any tissue in your body. They replace themselves entirely every 3 to 5 days, and much of that replacement occurs during the nighttime rest period, supported by the increased blood flow that deep sleep directs toward the digestive tract. You are not aware of this happening. You will never feel it. But every morning, the surface through which you absorb your food is a little bit newer than it was the night before. There is another process at work during deep sleep, one that operates at a level even deeper than tissue repair. It is called autophagy, a word that comes from the Greek for self-eating, and despite its dramatic name, it is one of the most gentle and essential processes in your body's maintenance repertoire. Throughout the day, the normal activity of your cells produces waste, damaged organelles, misfolded proteins, molecular debris that accumulates like dust in the corners of a room. During sleep, particularly during the fasting state that naturally accompanies a night of rest, your cells increase their rate of autophagy. They begin to identify this internal debris, enclose it in specialized membranes, and deliver it to structures called lysosomes, which break the waste down into its component parts for recycling. Old and damaged components are dismantled. Their raw materials are reclaimed, and the cell emerges cleaner, more efficient, ready for another day of work. This is not dramatic. It is not urgent. It is the quiet, patient work of maintenance, the kind that is easy to overlook and impossible to live without. Autophagy is one of the body's oldest self-cleaning mechanisms, and sleep is one of its most powerful activators. And then there is the heart. Your heart beats approximately 100,000 times in a single day. 100,000 contractions, 100,000 relaxations, 100,000 cycles of filling and emptying, of pressure and release. It is the most relentless muscle in your body, and it never fully stops. But during sleep, it comes as close to rest as it ever will. Your heart rate slows during deep sleep, dropping by 10 to 30 beats per minute below your waking rate. Over the course of an entire night, this saves your heart tens of thousands of beats, tens of thousands of moments of mechanical stress that it does not have to endure. Your blood pressure falls to its lowest nocturnal point. Your blood vessels, which spend the day constricting and dilating in response to the demands of activity and stress, relax and soften. The endothelial cells that line their inner walls have a chance to repair and regenerate. This nightly cardiovascular rest is not a luxury, it is protective. It is the pause between phrases in a piece of music that has been playing since before you were born and will continue playing until the day it stops. Without this pause, the music wears out faster. The rests between the notes are not empty, they are part of the song. There is one more thing that happens during deep sleep that deserves to be mentioned here, though it is still being fully understood. It concerns the very tips of your chromosomes. Inside nearly every cell in your body, your DNA is organized into structures called chromosomes. And at the end of each chromosome, like the plastic cap at the end of a shoelace, there is a protective structure called a telomere. Telomeres do not carry genetic information. Their job is simpler and, in its own way, just as important. They protect the chromosome from degradation. They keep the ends from fraying. Each time a cell divides, its telomeres shorten slightly. Over the course of a lifetime, this shortening accumulates, and telomere length has become one of the most studied biomarkers of cellular aging. The shorter your telomeres, the older your cells behave, regardless of the number on your birthday. Emerging research suggests a connection between adequate sleep and the maintenance of these protective caps. Several studies have found associations between chronic, short sleep and shorter telomere length. The relationship is still being mapped, the mechanisms still being traced, but the implication is quietly profound. Sleep may, in a very real and measurable sense, help slow the ticking of your body's biological clock. In all of this, every process described in the last several minutes is happening simultaneously. Right now, or within minutes of your falling asleep, growth hormone will flood your bloodstream. Your muscles will begin to rebuild, your bones will reshape themselves, your skin will renew, your gut lining will regenerate, your cells will clean their interiors, your heart will rest, your blood vessels will soften and repair. And at the tips of your chromosomes, the structures that mark the age of your cells may be quietly maintained. Trillions of cells, dozens of systems, hundreds of molecular signals, all coordinated, all timed, all unfolding in the darkness without a single instruction from your conscious mind. In the cathedral of the sleeping body, every cell is a quiet parishioner tending its small candle of repair. And you do not have to ask for any of it. You do not have to direct it. You do not have to understand it for it to work. You only have to do what you are doing right now. You only have to rest. But there is something else happening during deep sleep, something beyond the muscles and the bones and the skin. The body's repair during these hours extends into a realm that is less visible but no less vital, a realm where silent guardians multiply in the darkness, standing watch over your health in ways that are only now being fully appreciated. Your immune system does not sleep when you do, it wakes up. During deep sleep, your body ramps up the production of cytokines, small signaling proteins that serve as the immune system's communication network. Cytokines help coordinate the body's response to infection, to inflammation, to cellular stress. Some of them are inflammatory, summoning defender cells to sites of damage or invasion. Others are anti-inflammatory, calming the response once the threat has been addressed. During sleep, the balance and production of these signaling molecules is carefully calibrated, tuned to the body's current needs. Alongside the cytokines, your body is producing new immune cells. T cells, the adaptive fighters that learn to recognize specific threats and remember them for future encounters, increase their activity during sleep. Natural killer cells, the frontline defenders responsible for identifying and destroying virus-infected cells and abnormal cells, multiply in the quiet hours of the night. The importance of this nocturnal mobilization is difficult to overstate. Research has shown that a single night of poor sleep can reduce natural killer cell activity by as much as 70%. One night, 70%. Your frontline defense cut to less than a third of its normal strength because of one disrupted night of rest. The immune system does not merely benefit from sleep, it depends on it. This dependence has been demonstrated in ways that are both elegant and sobering. Studies have shown that people who sleep well in the nights following a vaccination produce significantly more antibodies than those who are sleep deprived. The vaccine delivers the information, but it is sleep that allows the immune system to fully process that information, to build the antibodies, to prepare the defenses. Sleep does not just support the immune response, it completes it. There is a hormone involved in this process that you may not expect. Prolactin, most commonly associated with lactation in nursing mothers, is released in increased quantities during sleep in everyone, regardless of sex. And while its role in milk production is well known, prolactin is far more versatile than that single function suggests. It modulates over 300 biological processes, including the differentiation of immune cells and the regulation of inflammatory responses. It is one of sleep's quiet multitaskers, doing important work in the background while the body's attention is elsewhere. And there is something else that makes the nighttime hours so favorable for immune activity. It is not only what increases during sleep, it is also what decreases. Cortisol, the hormone most associated with stress, drops to its lowest levels during the night. This decline is not accidental. Cortisol is useful during the day. It sharpens alertness, mobilizes energy, prepares the body for challenge. But cortisol also suppresses certain immune functions. When cortisol is high, the immune system operates under constraint, held back from its full capacity by the same chemistry that keeps you alert and responsive. During sleep, that constraint lifts. The security guard steps back from high alert. The alarm system dims to its lowest setting. And in that window of reduced stress chemistry, the immune system is free to operate at full strength. Inflammation decreases, repair conditions improve. The body can defend and restore without competing with the demands of wakefulness. This is why you feel sleepy when you are ill. That heavy, irresistible drowsiness that descends during a cold or a flu is not a sign of weakness. It is not your body failing, it is your body strategizing. Your immune system is requesting more resources, more production time, more of the optimal conditions that only sleep can provide. The sleepiness of illness is the body prioritizing healing above all else. It is one of the oldest survival strategies in the biological world, and it works. There is ongoing research into how sleep quality affects something called immunosurveillance, the body's routine ability to detect and destroy abnormal cells before they become problematic. This surveillance is not a dramatic battle. It is a quiet patrol, a constant, low-level scanning that identifies problems early when they are small and manageable. And this patrol depends, in ways that are still being fully mapped, on the nightly fortification that sleep provides. The immune system works in the dark the way stars work in the dark. Invisibly, faithfully, everywhere at once. You cannot feel your natural killer cells multiplying. You cannot sense the cytokines being released into your blood. You will never be aware of the precise moment when a T cell learns to recognize a new threat. But all of it is happening right now, or very soon, as your body settles deeper into the night. And tomorrow morning, when you wake, you will carry the evidence of this invisible labor with you. That sense of resilience after a good night of rest, that feeling that you can handle what the day brings, that your body feels solid and capable and ready, is not merely emotional, it is immunological. Your defenses have been literally rebuilt in the night. The person who wakes from a full, unbroken sleep is, in measurable biological terms, better protected than the person who went to bed. This is what your body does for you while you are not watching. This is the gift of the darkness. And there is more still, because the body's healing during sleep extends beyond the physical, beyond the muscular and the skeletal and the immunological. It reaches into the most protected organ you possess, the most complex structure in the known universe, the organ that, until very recently, scientists believed had no way to clean itself at all. Let us follow the river. And if you are enjoying this quiet exploration, if this gentle pace feels like something worth returning to, you might consider subscribing to the channel. It is free, and it simply means that more evenings like this one will find their way to you. Your brain weighs about 3 pounds. It represents roughly 2% of your total body weight, and yet, during your waking hours, it consumes approximately 20% of all the energy your body produces. Pound for pound, it is the most metabolically demanding organ you possess, burning through glucose and oxygen at a rate that far exceeds any other tissue in your body. This extraordinary metabolic activity comes at a cost. Like any engine that burns fuel, the brain produces waste. Metabolic byproducts accumulate throughout the day as neurons fire and synapses transmit and glial cells perform their countless support functions. Among these byproducts is a protein called beta amyloid, a name you may have encountered before because it is one of the proteins most strongly associated with Alzheimer's disease. Beta amyloid is not inherently dangerous. In small quantities, it may even serve useful purposes. But when it accumulates, when it is not cleared away efficiently, it can form the plaques that are a hallmark of neurodegeneration. Every other organ in your body has a system for clearing this kind of waste. It is called the lymphatic system, a network of vessels and nodes that drains fluid, filters debris, and returns clean fluid to the bloodstream. The lymphatic system reaches nearly everywhere, from your skin to your gut to the tips of your fingers. But for decades, scientists believed it did not reach the brain. The brain, protected behind the blood-brain barrier, appeared to lack any lymphatic drainage. It seemed to be the one organ in the body with no way to take out its own trash. This was a puzzle. If the brain produced waste at such a prodigious rate, and if it had no lymphatic system to clear that waste, how did it keep itself clean? What prevented the toxic byproducts of a day's thinking from simply accumulating until the brain drowned in its own debris? For a long time, no one had a good answer. And then, in 2012, a neuroscientist named Maiken Nedergaard found one. Dr. Nedergaard was working at the University of Rochester when she and her team used a specialized imaging technique called two-photon microscopy to observe the brains of living mice during sleep. What they saw had never been observed before. Cerebrospinal fluid, the clear fluid that surrounds and cushions the brain and spinal cord, was flowing through the brain itself, not just around it. It was moving along channels that surrounded the brain's blood vessels, penetrating deep into the neural tissue, washing through the spaces between cells, and carrying metabolic waste out with it as it drained away. This was the brain's cleaning system. It had been there all along, hidden in plain sight, operating in the fluid-filled spaces between neurons. And it had one extraordinary property that no one had anticipated. It was almost exclusively active during sleep. Dr. Nedergaard named this system the glymphatic system because it functions like the lymphatic system elsewhere in the body, but is managed and operated by glial cells, the brain's support cells that outnumber neurons and perform a vast range of maintenance functions. The name is a quiet combination of glial and lymphatic, and it describes what may be one of the most important biological systems ever discovered. Here's how it works, and the mechanism itself is almost poetic in its simplicity. During your waking hours, the cells of your brain are packed tightly together. The interstitial spaces between neurons, the tiny gaps through which fluid might flow, are narrow and constricted. There's little room for cerebrospinal fluid to penetrate. The brain's cleaning system is largely shut down, idling, waiting. But when you enter deep sleep, something changes. The glial cells that surround your neurons begin to contract. They shrink, pulling inward, making themselves smaller by approximately 20%. As they shrink, the interstitial spaces between cells widen. The narrow channels become broader, and into these expanded channels, cerebrospinal fluid begins to flow. Not in a constant stream, in pulses, slow, rhythmic pulses that are synchronized with the deep delta waves rolling through your sleeping brain. In 2019, a team led by Laura Lewis at Boston University captured these pulsing waves on MRI for the first time, watching as cerebrospinal fluid surged through the human brain in great, gentle swells, timed precisely to the brain's own slow electrical rhythms. The cleaning is not random. It breathes, it pulses, it moves with the rhythm of the deepest sleep. During these pulses, the cerebrospinal fluid washes through the expanded channels, picking up metabolic waste as it goes. Beta amyloid, tau proteins, the accumulated debris of a day's neural activity, all of it is gathered up and carried away, drained out of the brain, and eventually cleared from the body entirely. The scale of this process is significant. During sleep, glymphatic flow increases by roughly 60% compared to wakefulness, 60% more cleaning, 60% more waste removal, 60% more maintenance performed in the quiet hours when the brain is not occupied with the demands of consciousness. And when you wake, the glial cells expand again, the channels narrow, the cleaning system goes quiet. It will wait patiently through another day of thinking and feeling and remembering until sleep returns and the channels open once more. The glymphatic system, that gentle river of cerebrospinal fluid, it flows through the sleeping brain like a stream through a forest at night, carrying away the fallen leaves of the day. It has been flowing every night of your life, every night of your parents' lives, every night of every life that has ever possessed a brain complex enough to need cleaning. And we did not know it existed until 12 years ago. Think about that for a moment. Let it settle. This is what your brain does for itself while you sleep. It makes room. It opens its channels. It lets the river flow. And it washes itself clean, one slow pulse at a time, synchronized to the rhythm of your deepest rest. That clarity of mind you feel after a good night of sleep, that sense of freshness, of clean thinking, of being able to see things more clearly than you could the night before, is not a metaphor. It is not merely subjective. It is the tangible, measurable result of a brain that has been physically cleaned. You are thinking through cleaner neural architecture. The waste has been carried away. The channels have been flushed. Your brain is, in the most literal sense, clearer than it was when you closed your eyes. And tonight, if you let yourself rest, the river will flow again. The glial cells will contract. The channels will open. The cerebrospinal fluid will begin its slow, rhythmic work. You do not need to direct it. You do not need to be conscious for it to happen. In fact, consciousness is precisely what must step aside for the cleaning to begin. Your brain will take care of itself. It has always known how. It only asks for the one thing that you are offering right now: stillness, rest, the willingness to let go. The first half of the night belongs to the body, to muscles and bones and blood, to immune cells and cleansing rivers. Growth hormone has done its work. The guardians are on patrol. The river has flowed. But as the hours pass, the night's work shifts. The body's physical repair begins to quiet, its most urgent tasks attended to, and something else rises to take its place. Something that lives not in the muscles or the blood or the bones, but in the architecture of thought itself. The mind's own restoration is about to begin. But that is a journey for the hours ahead. For now, it is enough to rest with what you have already learned, to lie here in the knowledge that your body is not idle, that the darkness around you is full of quiet, purposeful work, that every system you possess is being tended, repaired, and renewed, not because you asked for it, but because your body has always known that this is what the night is for. You are safe here, you are held, and everything that needs to happen is already underway. Rest with that thought for a while. There is no rush. We will continue when you are ready. As the hours of the night deepen, something shifts. It does not happen suddenly. There is no announcement, no sharp dividing line between one kind of restoration and another. It is more like the slow turning of a tide. The body's physical repair does not stop. Growth hormone continues to circulate. Immune cells continue to patrol. The glymphatic river continues to pulse, though more gently now, but the center of gravity moves. The night's primary attention turns inward, away from muscle and bone and blood, and towards something less tangible but no less real: the mind. You have entered a stage of sleep that scientists call REM, which stands for rapid eye movement, and what happens here is unlike anything else in biology. To understand how strange REM sleep truly is, consider the paradox at its heart. During this stage, your brain becomes extraordinarily active. Electrical activity surges across your cortex, reaching levels that rival and sometimes match the intensity of full wakefulness. If a scientist were to look at a readout of your brain waves during REM sleep without knowing you were asleep, they might reasonably conclude that you were wide awake, engaged in complex thought, processing the world around you with full alertness. But you are not awake. You are deeply asleep, and your body is doing something that makes this paradox even more remarkable. From the neck down, you are paralyzed. This is not a malfunction. It is not a disorder. It is a precisely orchestrated safety mechanism, and it has a name: REM atonia. During this stage of sleep, your brainstem sends signals that effectively disconnect your voluntary muscles from your conscious motor commands. Your legs cannot move. Your arms cannot reach. Your fingers cannot grasp. You are, for all practical purposes, immobilized. Only two systems are exempt from this paralysis. Your diaphragm continues to work because you must keep breathing. And your eyes continue to move, darting rapidly beneath your closed lids in the coordinated bursts that give this stage its name. Everything else is still. The reason for this elegant paralysis is simple, and once you understand it, it seems almost obvious. During REM sleep, you dream. Your brain is generating vivid, immersive experiences, complete with movement, emotion, sensation, and narrative. If your muscles were free to respond to these experiences, you would act them out. You would run, you would reach, you would speak aloud. The paralysis of REM atonia is the body's way of ensuring that the theater of the mind remains safely contained within the mind. The stage is set. The curtain is raised. The performance unfolds, but the audience, which is also the actor, remains perfectly, safely still. This is one of the most remarkable arrangements in all of biology. A brain ablaze with activity, a body held in gentle stillness. Two states that seem incompatible, existing simultaneously in the same person, in the same moment, for the same purpose. And that purpose is the restoration of the mind itself. Let us begin with memory, because memory is where some of the most extraordinary work of REM sleep takes place. Throughout your waking day, you experience a continuous stream of information. Conversations, observations, sensations, emotions, ideas, problems, solutions, faces, places. The taste of your morning coffee, the sound of a voice you love, the weight of something you carried, the texture of something you touched. All of it flows into your brain in an unbroken current, and your brain does its best to process it in real time, to make sense of it, to respond to it, to use it. But processing and storing are not the same thing. During the day, new experiences are held in a kind of temporary buffer, centered in a structure deep within your brain called the hippocampus. The hippocampus is not large. It is roughly the size and shape of a seahorse, which is, in fact, how it got its name. And for all its modest dimensions, it plays a role in memory that is absolutely critical. Think of the hippocampus as a receiving dock. Throughout the day, new experiences arrive and are placed here temporarily, held in short-term storage while the brain attends to the immediate demands of living. The experiences are recorded, but they are not yet filed. They are not yet integrated into the vast, interconnected web of everything you have ever known. They are sitting on the dock, waiting to be sorted. Sleep is when the sorting begins. During slow-wave sleep, the deep sleep stages that dominate the first half of the night, the hippocampus begins to replay the day's experiences. This is not a metaphor. It is a literal, measurable neural event. The firing patterns that occurred in your brain during a waking experience are reenacted, replayed in compressed form at speeds much faster than the original experience. A conversation that took 10 minutes in real time might be replayed in seconds. A walk through a familiar place might flash through the neural circuitry in a fraction of the time it took to walk it. This accelerated replay has been observed directly in both rodents and humans. Scientists studying rats navigating mazes found that the same sequences of neural firing that occurred during the maze run were replayed during the rat's subsequent sleep in the same order but compressed in time. The brain was rehearsing, reviewing, going over the material again the way a student might review notes before an exam, except that this review happened unconsciously, automatically, and with a precision that no conscious effort could match. During REM sleep, this process deepens. The replayed experiences are no longer simply being reviewed, they are being integrated. The hippocampus begins to transfer its temporary holdings to the neocortex, the vast, folded outer layer of the brain where long-term memories are stored. And it does not simply dump them there. It files them, it cross-references them, it connects new experiences to existing memories, weaving them into the fabric of everything you already know. If you think of your brain as a library, then sleep is the librarian working the night shift. Imagine, for a moment, what a library would look like if new books arrived every day, but no one ever shelved them. They would pile up on the receiving desk, on the floor, in the aisles. The library would become cluttered, then chaotic, then unusable. You might own thousands of books and still be unable to find the one you need. This is, in a sense, what would happen to your brain without sleep. The experiences would accumulate, the short-term buffer would fill, the connections between new and old would never be made. You would have memories, but you would not have understanding, because understanding requires not just the storage of individual experiences, but the weaving of those experiences into a coherent whole. Sleep is the weaving. During the night, the librarian works quietly and methodically. New books are removed from the receiving desk and carried to their proper shelves. They are placed alongside related volumes, cross-referenced with relevant topics, indexed for future retrieval. Some books, the ones that carry important information or emotional significance, are given prominent positions. Others, the trivial and the redundant, are gently set aside, their shelf space reclaimed for more important material. By morning, the library is reorganized. The shelves are clear. The aisles are open. And when you reach for a memory tomorrow, when you try to recall a name, a fact, a feeling, the chances of finding it quickly and accurately are measurably improved because sleep has done the quiet work of filing it in its proper place. This is not a poetic exaggeration. It is supported by decades of experimental evidence. Studies have shown that people who sleep after learning new information recall it significantly better than people who remain awake for the same period. The effect holds for declarative memories, the facts and events of your life. It holds for procedural memories, the skills and movements your body has practiced. It holds for emotional memories, the experiences that carried joy, or sorrow, or meaning. Sleep consolidates all of them, and the mechanism by which it does this is one of the most elegant ideas in modern neuroscience. It is called the synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, and it was proposed by two scientists named Giulio Tononi and Chiara Sorelli. To understand it, you need to know one thing about how your brain learns. Every time you learn something new, every time you form a new memory or practice a new skill, the connections between the neurons involved in that learning are strengthened. These connections are called synapses, and the strengthening process is called synaptic potentiation. The more you practice, the more you repeat, the more you engage with the material, the stronger the synapses become. This is the physical basis of learning. It is literally a change in the structure of your brain. But there is a problem. If synapses only ever got stronger, if every experience of every day added more and more potentiation, the brain would eventually saturate. The synaptic connections would become so uniformly strong that the differences between them would be lost. It would be like a photograph in which every pixel has been turned to maximum brightness. The image disappears. Everything is equally bright, which means nothing stands out. The brain would lose its ability to distinguish important connections from trivial ones, and its capacity to learn new things would gradually diminish. This is where sleep comes in. During slow-wave sleep, according to the synaptic homeostasis hypothesis, the brain performs a global downscaling of synaptic strength. All synapses are reduced in strength by a proportional amount. The strong connections become somewhat less strong. The weak connections become weaker still, some of them fading away entirely. But here is the key. Because the downscaling is proportional, the relative differences between connections are preserved. The synapses that were strongest, the ones representing the most important or most repeated experiences, remain the strongest even after downscaling. The synapses that were weakest, the ones representing trivial or unrepeated experiences, fall below the threshold of viability and are pruned away. The result is a brain that has been cleaned and sharpened overnight. The important memories remain. The unimportant ones have been gently cleared. The overall level of synaptic noise has been reduced, and the brain's capacity to learn, to form new connections, to absorb new information has been restored to its full potential. This is why you can concentrate better after a good night of sleep. This is why problems that seemed intractable at midnight can seem manageable in the morning. Your brain has not merely rested, it has been recalibrated. The signal-to-noise ratio has been improved. The important things are clearer because the unimportant things have been quietly removed. Think of it as a garden. During the day, everything grows, flowers and weeds alike. The garden becomes lush and tangled and full. During sleep, a careful gardener moves through, pruning the weeds, trimming the overgrowth, making space for the flowers to be seen clearly again. The garden is not diminished by this pruning. It is clarified. It is made ready for another season of growth. There is something else that happens during REM sleep that touches a part of your experience you may not think of as biological. It touches your emotions. During your waking hours, your brain's threat detection system is active and alert. At the center of this system sits a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. The amygdala is responsible for processing emotions, particularly those related to fear, anxiety, and threat. It is the part of your brain that reacts when something startles you, when something feels dangerous, when something triggers an emotional response before your conscious mind has even had time to evaluate the situation. The amygdala is useful. It keeps you safe, but it is also, by design, somewhat overreactive. It is calibrated to err on the side of caution, to flag potential threats even when the evidence is ambiguous. Better to flinch at a shadow that turns out to be harmless than to ignore a shadow that turns out to be real. This is sound evolutionary logic, but it means that by the end of a long day, your amygdala has been running hot, responding to a steady stream of stimuli with varying degrees of emotional intensity, and its sensitivity has been ratcheted upward by the accumulated stress and arousal of waking life. REM sleep recalibrates this system. During REM, the brain reprocesses emotional experiences from the day. It replays them, but in a neurochemical environment that is fundamentally different from the one in which they originally occurred. Two key neurotransmitters that are normally active during waking hours, serotonin and norepinephrine, go offline during REM sleep. They are effectively shut down, their production paused, their receptor systems given a period of quiet. This is significant because norepinephrine, in particular, is the brain's primary chemical of arousal and alertness. It is the molecule of urgency, of fight or flight, of emotional intensity. When norepinephrine is present, emotional memories are experienced with their full emotional charge. The fear feels sharp, the anxiety feels immediate, the stress feels pressing. But during REM sleep, norepinephrine is absent. And in this absence, the brain replays the day's emotional experiences in a kind of safe, depressurized environment. The memory is reviewed. The content is preserved, but the emotional sting, the visceral charge, the urgency is gradually softened. The experience is processed without the chemistry that made it feel so intense. This is why sleep can take the edge off a difficult day. This is why a problem that felt overwhelming at midnight can feel manageable by morning. This is why grief, while it does not disappear with sleep, becomes something you can carry rather than something that carries you. REM sleep does not erase emotional memories. It preserves their content while reducing their emotional voltage. It allows you to remember what happened without being overwhelmed by how it felt. The amygdala's sensitivity is recalibrated. Its threat threshold is reset. The emotional dial is turned back down to a baseline that allows you to face the next day with steadiness rather than reactivity. That feeling of emotional resilience after a good night of rest, that quiet sense that you can handle things, that the world is not quite as overwhelming as it seemed last night, is not vague and it is not imaginary. It is the measurable result of a neurochemical reset that happened while you dreamed. And this brings us to dreams themselves. You dream during REM sleep. You may not always remember your dreams, and the ones you do remember may seem strange, fragmented, or nonsensical when viewed through the logic of waking life. But dreams are not noise. They are not random. They are the brain's way of doing something important, though scientists are still debating exactly what that something is. Some researchers believe dreams are a form of emotional processing, the brain rehearsing difficult scenarios in a safe environment, working through fears and anxieties without the real-world consequences. Others believe dreams serve a creative function, making unexpected connections between ideas, combining memories in novel ways that can lead to insight and problem-solving. Still others believe dreams are primarily a byproduct of the memory consolidation process, the subjective experience of neural replay as it feels from the inside. The truth may involve all of these and more. Dreams may serve multiple functions simultaneously, just as sleep itself serves multiple functions. What is clear is that the dreaming brain is not idle. It is working. And the paralysis that holds your body still during REM is the gentle boundary that allows this interior work to unfold without interference from the physical world. You can imagine it this way. The dreaming mind is a theater. The stage is set with elements from your day, your memories, your fears, your hopes, rearranged in combinations that follow their own quiet logic. The performance is vivid, immersive, sometimes beautiful, sometimes bewildering. And the body's paralysis is the darkened auditorium, ensuring that the audience remains seated, that the drama of the inner world does not spill out into the outer one. When you wake from a dream, you carry fragments of it with you, fading wisps that dissolve in the light of morning like mist over water. And though the dream itself may be gone within minutes, its work remains. The emotional charge of yesterday has been softened. The memories have been filed. The synaptic garden has been pruned. The mind is ready to begin again. There is one more aspect of the night's architecture that deserves attention before we move deeper into the hours ahead. It is the way the night divides itself between these two great categories of restoration. The first half of your night is dominated by deep sleep. The long, slow waves of stage N3, the surge of growth hormone, the physical repair of muscle and bone and skin, the immune mobilization, the glymphatic cleansing. These processes are concentrated in the early hours, in the first 2 or 3 cycles of the night. As the hours pass, the deep sleep stages grow shorter. Less time is spent in the slow, rolling delta waves. The body's most urgent physical repair has been attended to. In the second half of the night, REM takes over. The REM periods grow longer as dawn approaches, each one extending further than the last. What began as brief episodes of 10 or 15 minutes in the early cycles can stretch to 45 minutes or even an hour in the final cycle before waking. This is when the brain does its deepest emotional processing, its most extensive memory consolidation, its most thorough synaptic recalibration. This division of labor has an important implication. If you cut your sleep short, if you wake after 5 hours instead of 7 or 8, you do not lose an equal proportion of deep sleep and REM. You lose REM disproportionately because REM is concentrated at the end of the night. You may have gotten most of your physical repair, but you have sacrificed much of your mental and emotional restoration. The librarian was still working. The emotional processing was not yet complete. The synaptic garden was only half pruned. This is why partial sleep can feel so peculiar. Your body may feel reasonably rested. Your muscles may not ache, but your thinking is foggy. Your emotions are closer to the surface. Your patience is thinner. Your ability to concentrate is diminished. These are not signs of physical fatigue. They are signs of a mind that did not get to finish its work. The night has a plan. Deep sleep first for the body, REM later for the mind, and the plan needs the full night to complete. There is something beautiful about this arrangement if you allow yourself to see it. The body heals first. It attends to the most urgent physical needs, the muscle tears, the bone reshaping, the immune defenses, the brain cleansing, in the early hours when the pressure for restoration is greatest. And then, once the physical house has been put in order, the night turns its attention to the interior life, to memory, to emotion, to the subtle, invisible architecture of thought itself. It is as though the body says, "First, let me make you whole, and then let me make you clear." And all of this unfolds in cycles, not in a single, unbroken arc, but in waves. Roughly every 90 minutes, you move through a complete cycle of sleep stages, from light to deep, and then up into REM, before descending again. 4, 5, sometimes 6 complete cycles in a single night. Each one a small chapter in the body's story of renewal. Each one shifting the balance slightly, a little less deep sleep, a little more REM as the night progresses and the dawn approaches. You are not aware of these cycles. You do not feel the transitions between stages. But they are there, as regular and as reliable as the tides, as the seasons, as the turning of the earth that brought the darkness in the first place. The night has a rhythm, and your body knows it by heart. Consider, for a moment, how remarkable this is. Not just the individual processes, the growth hormone, the immune cells, the glymphatic river, the memory consolidation, the emotional processing, but the orchestration, the timing, the fact that all of it happens in the right order, at the right moment, in the right proportion, without a single conscious decision on your part. You did not tell your pituitary gland to release growth hormone. You did not instruct your glial cells to shrink. You did not schedule the replay of your hippocampal memories or the recalibration of your amygdala. You simply closed your eyes and your body. Drawing on a wisdom that predates language, predates civilization, predates the human species itself, began the work it has always known how to do. This is perhaps the most humbling truth about sleep. The conscious mind, the part of you that plans and worries and strives and identifies as you, must step aside for the deepest healing to occur. Your body does not merely prefer to do this work while you are unconscious. It waits for consciousness to leave. It waits for you to stop directing, stop monitoring, stop trying to be in charge. And then, in your absence, it takes care of everything. There is a wisdom in this that goes beyond biology. It says something about the relationship between effort and restoration, between control and trust, between the waking self and the deeper self that exists beneath it. The most important work you will do in any 24-hour period requires you to do nothing, to stop striving, to stop planning, to surrender the controls to something older and quieter and infinitely more patient than your conscious mind. Your waking mind is brilliant at navigating the world, but your sleeping body is brilliant at maintaining the vessel that navigates it. And it has been doing this work, faithfully, silently, without recognition, every night of your life. We have more explorations like this one, journeys into the deep ocean, into the far reaches of the cosmos, into the quiet mysteries of the natural world. If you would like to find them waiting for you on another restless evening, a subscription is simply a small doorway back to this peaceful place. And now, as the night continues to unfold around us, let us turn our attention to the questions that remain. Because for all that science has discovered about sleep, for all the extraordinary mechanisms it has mapped and measured, there are things we still do not know, doors that have not yet been opened, mysteries that sit quietly at the edge of understanding, waiting for someone to ask the right question in the right way. These are not gaps to worry about. They are not failures of science, they are invitations. And in their own way, they are as beautiful as the answers. The deepest mystery of sleep may be the simplest to state. Why does the body require unconsciousness for its most essential repair? This is not as obvious a question as it might seem. Many of the processes that peak during sleep, the release of growth hormone, the production of immune cells, the synthesis of proteins, can technically occur during waking hours. They are not inherently dependent on the absence of consciousness. Your pituitary gland can release growth hormone while you are awake. Your immune system can produce cytokines while you are standing in a sunlit room. The machinery of repair is not physically locked behind a door that only opens when you lose consciousness. And yet, the body strongly prefers to perform these functions during sleep. Not just prefers, demands. The efficiency of these processes drops measurably during wakefulness. The glymphatic system, that river in the dark, operates at 60% greater capacity during sleep than during waking. Growth hormone release is timed to the first deep sleep cycle with a precision that suggests it is not merely coincidental but structurally necessary. The immune fortification that occurs during the night far exceeds what the immune system accomplishes during an equivalent period of quiet wakefulness. Something about the suspension of consciousness creates conditions that are ideal for repair. Something about the absence of your awareness allows the body's deepest healing to proceed in ways that your presence, your consciousness, your sense of being someone, somehow, inhibits. What is that something? We do not know. Not fully, not yet. Scientists have theories. Perhaps consciousness itself consumes resources that the body would rather redirect toward maintenance. Perhaps the neural activity of wakefulness creates a kind of noise that interferes with the precision of repair processes. Perhaps the stress hormones that accompany even mild waking awareness, even the awareness of lying quietly in a dark room, are enough to dampen the body's restorative capacity. Perhaps it is something simpler and stranger than any of these. Perhaps consciousness and deep healing are, at some fundamental level, mutually exclusive states, like inhaling and exhaling, like the rising and falling of a single breath. You cannot do both at once. You must release one to fully enter the other. Whatever the answer, the implication is quietly profound. The most important thing your body does each day requires your absence. Healing demands letting go. And the part of you that most wants to be in control, that most wants to monitor and manage and understand, is precisely the part that must step aside. There is, perhaps, a lesson in this. Though it is not the kind of lesson that demands action, it is the kind that simply asks to be noticed. And then there are dreams. You have dreamed thousands of times, tens of thousands, probably. You have fallen into worlds that do not exist, spoken with people who are not there, felt emotions so vivid they lingered for hours after waking. Dreams are among the most universal of all human experiences, shared across every culture, every age, every era of history. And yet, despite decades of serious scientific study, no one can say with certainty what dreams are for. The theories are numerous, and they are each, in their own way, compelling. Sigmund Freud believed dreams were the expression of unconscious desires. Modern neuroscience has largely moved beyond Freud's specific framework, but the broader idea that dreams serve an emotional function has found substantial support. The threat simulation theory, proposed by Finnish neuroscientist Antti Revonsuo, suggests that dreams evolved as a kind of rehearsal space, a virtual environment in which the brain could practice responding to threats without real-world consequences. In this view, the nightmares that sometimes wake you with a racing heart are not malfunctions. They are training exercises, the brain keeping its emergency responses sharp. Others believe dreams are primarily a byproduct of memory consolidation, the subjective experience of what it feels like from the inside when the hippocampus replays and reorganizes the day's recordings. In this view, the often bizarre and fragmentary nature of dreams reflects the brain's filing process, fragments of memory being pulled from their original context and tested against other memories, combined in unexpected ways, cross-referenced and evaluated for relevance. Still others have proposed that dreams serve a creative function, that the unusual combinations and associations that characterize dream logic are not random but generative, producing novel connections between ideas that the waking mind, constrained by logic and habit, would never make on its own. There are famous examples of creative breakthroughs that reportedly emerge from dreams. The structure of the benzene molecule, the melody of a song, the plot of a story. Whether these anecdotes represent the true function of dreaming or merely its occasional side effect remains an open question. The honest truth is that dreams remain one of the great unsolved puzzles of neuroscience. Every human being who has ever lived has dreamed, and we still cannot say, with scientific certainty, why. There is something strangely comforting about this. In an age when so much has been measured and explained, when the mechanisms of stars and atoms and genes have been laid bare, the simple fact of dreaming remains mysterious. The most intimate experience you have, the one that unfolds inside your own mind every night, in a landscape that belongs to you alone, remains beyond the reach of complete explanation. Perhaps that is as it should be. Perhaps some things are more beautiful for being not fully understood. There is another mystery that has emerged only recently, and it concerns a relationship that no one anticipated. It is the relationship between sleep and the trillions of bacteria that live inside your gut. Your gut microbiome, the vast community of microorganisms that inhabits your digestive tract, has been one of the most exciting areas of biological research in recent years. These bacteria are not passive residents. They are active participants in your health, influencing everything from digestion to immune function to mood. They produce vitamins. They break down compounds your own cells cannot process. They communicate with your brain through the vagus nerve and through the chemicals they release into your bloodstream. And now, emerging research suggests that the microbiome and sleep are in conversation with each other. Gut bacteria produce precursors to neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that regulate brain function. Some of these precursors are related to serotonin, a neurotransmitter intimately involved in mood and sleep regulation. Others are related to gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, an inhibitory neurotransmitter that promotes calm and facilitates the onset of sleep. The bacteria in your gut may be influencing how well you sleep and when you feel sleepy through chemical signals that travel from your abdomen to your brain. And the relationship flows in both directions. Studies have shown that disrupted sleep alters the composition of the gut microbiome, changing the balance of bacterial species in ways that may have downstream effects on health. Sleep affects your bacteria. Your bacteria affect your sleep. The conversation is bidirectional, and we are only beginning to learn its language. This is a frontier of science that is still being charted. The mechanisms are not yet clear. The cause and effect relationships are still being untangled. But the very existence of this conversation between your sleeping brain and the microscopic organisms that share your body suggests that the biology of sleep is even more interconnected, even more deeply woven into the fabric of your physiology than anyone imagined. Your body is not a collection of independent systems that happen to shut down at the same time each night. It is an integrated whole, a single, vast, living network in which sleep serves as the great coordinator, the nightly event that allows every part of the system to reset, recalibrate, and renew itself in relation to every other part. If you have been resting here a while, if your thoughts are beginning to soften, that is a gentle thing. Stay as long as you wish, and if you would like to return, we will always be here. There are other questions that remain open, smaller in scope but no less fascinating in their implications. Why do some people seem to thrive on 6 hours of sleep while others need 9? The answer involves genetics, though the full picture is far from complete. Scientists have identified a rare genetic variation called DEC2, found in a small number of individuals, that appears to allow genuinely healthy functioning on less sleep than the average person requires. These short sleepers are not simply enduring sleep deprivation. Their biology is genuinely different. They need less, but the DEC2 variation is rare, and it does not explain the full range of individual differences in sleep need. The interplay of genetics, epigenetics, age, environment, and lifestyle that determines how much sleep you, specifically, require is still being mapped. And there are scientists right now working in laboratories around the world who are exploring ways to enhance the quality of sleep itself, not through drugs, not through sedation, through something far gentler. Researchers at Northwestern University and other institutions have been experimenting with acoustic stimulation during deep sleep. The technique involves playing precisely timed pulses of soft pink noise, a gentle, low-frequency sound similar to the rush of a distant waterfall during slow-wave sleep. The pulses are synchronized to the brain's own delta waves, arriving at exactly the right moment in each wave cycle, and the results have been intriguing. The acoustic stimulation appears to amplify the slow waves, making them deeper and more robust, and this amplification is associated with improvements in memory consolidation. The idea is beautifully simple. The brain is already doing the work. The sound merely helps it do the work more effectively, like a gentle hand supporting a wave that was already rising. No chemicals, no side effects, just sound, timed to the brain's own rhythm, enhancing what sleep already provides. Other researchers are exploring targeted memory reactivation, a technique in which specific sounds or scents associated with a learning experience are presented during slow-wave sleep to strengthen the consolidation of that particular memory. Learn a set of facts while smelling a particular scent, then present that scent during deep sleep. The brain, recognizing the cue, appears to prioritize the replay and consolidation of the associated memory. The filing system gets a nudge. A particular book is moved to the front of the queue. These are still early days. The research is promising but preliminary. The techniques are being refined, the mechanisms being clarified, the boundaries of what is possible being carefully explored. But the direction is clear. The future of sleep science may not be about sleeping more. It may be about sleeping better, about understanding the body's nightly restoration so deeply that we can gently optimize it, support it, give it the best possible conditions to do what it already knows how to do. And there's one more thing that science is beginning to investigate, something that touches on the very deepest level of biological repair. It concerns the chemical tags on your DNA. Your genes are not simply static instructions, read the same way every time. They are regulated by a system of chemical modifications called epigenetic markers, tiny molecular tags attached to your DNA that control which genes are active and which are silent. These markers are influenced by your environment, your behavior, your stress levels, your diet. They are, in a sense, the conversation between your life and your genome. Emerging studies are investigating whether sleep provides a window for epigenetic maintenance, a time when these chemical tags are repaired, recalibrated, and restored. If disrupted sleep accelerates epigenetic aging, as some preliminary data suggests, then adequate sleep may not only heal the body at the level of tissues and organs, it may help maintain the integrity of the instructions that tell those tissues and organs how to function in the first place. This is speculative, it is early, but it is a beautiful possibility, and it fits with everything else we have learned about the night. Sleep heals at every level. From the largest scale, the rebuilding of muscles and the cleansing of the brain, down to the smallest, the molecular tags on the double helix of your DNA. Every layer of your biology is touched by the night's restoration. And there is still more happening in the night than we have yet explored, because sleep is not a single event. It is a journey with its own geography, its own rhythms, its own way of moving through time. And the deeper you travel into the night, the more there is to discover. We spoke earlier about the 90-minute cycle, the slow descent from wakefulness through light sleep into the deep, slow waves of stage N3, and then the rise into the vivid, paradoxical activity of REM. We described this cycle once as though it were a single passage, a one-time journey from the surface to the depths and back again. But it is not a one-time journey. It repeats 4 times, 5 times, sometimes 6, depending on how long you sleep. And each repetition is slightly different from the one before. In the first cycle of the night, deep sleep dominates. The body plunges quickly and decisively into stage N3, spending 20 to 40 minutes in those long, slow delta waves before rising briefly into a short period of REM that may last only 10 or 15 minutes. This first cycle is where the most urgent physical repair occurs. The growth hormone pulse, the immune mobilization, the glymphatic opening. The body prioritizes what it needs most, and what it needs most after a full day of waking activity is deep physical restoration. In the second cycle, deep sleep is still substantial, but slightly shorter than before. The REM period at the top of the cycle grows a little longer. The balance is beginning to shift. By the third and fourth cycles, deep sleep has diminished considerably. The body has attended to its most pressing physical needs. The growth hormone has been delivered. The immune system has been fortified. The brain has been washed. And now, with the physical house largely in order, the night turns its full attention to the mind. The REM periods expand, growing longer and more elaborate with each successive cycle. What was 10 minutes in the first cycle becomes 20 in the second, 30 in the third, and in the final cycles of the night, REM can stretch to 45 minutes or even an hour. If you could watch this progression from the outside, if you could see the architecture of your own night mapped across a screen, you would see something that looks almost like breathing. A deep inhalation of slow-wave sleep in the early hours, followed by increasingly long exhalations of REM as the night progresses. The rhythm is organic. It feels alive, because it is. And within each cycle, your body is not simply repeating the same process. It is building on what came before. The memories consolidated in the first cycle are integrated further in the second. The emotional processing that began in an early REM period is deepened in a later one. The synaptic pruning continues, refining and clarifying with each pass. Each cycle is not a repetition, but an iteration, a further refinement of the work that began when you first closed your eyes. This is why the length of sleep matters so much, and why the specific number of hours is less important than the completeness of the journey. It is not about accumulating a quota of unconscious time. It is about allowing the full sequence of cycles to unfold, each one building on the last, each one carrying the restoration a step further than the one before. The body does not simply need sleep. It needs enough sleep to complete its work. There's a quieter rhythm nested within these cycles, one that most people never notice, but that shapes the quality of every night you have ever spent in bed. It is the rhythm of your body temperature. We mentioned earlier that your core temperature drops by 1 to 2 degrees during sleep, but this description, while accurate, does not capture the full elegance of what is actually happening. Your temperature does not simply fall and then hold steady until morning. It follows its own slow, undulating curve through the night, a curve that is intimately connected to the quality and depth of your sleep. In the hours before you fall asleep, while you are still awake, your body begins to radiate heat outward from its core. Blood flow to your hands and feet increases, and warmth is released through your skin into the surrounding air. This is not a loss of heat. It is a deliberate redistribution. Your body is actively lowering its core temperature by pushing warmth to the surface and letting it dissipate. This is why your hands and feet sometimes feel warm in the evening, even as you begin to feel sleepy. The warmth at your extremities is the mechanism by which your core is cooling down. As you fall asleep, this cooling continues. Your core temperature descends steadily through the early hours of the night, reaching its lowest point sometime between 3 and 5 in the morning, depending on your individual circadian rhythm. This lowest point, this thermal nadir, coincides with the deepest troughs of your sleep, the periods of maximum delta wave activity, the moments of most profound physical restoration. And then, as dawn approaches, the curve reverses. Your core temperature begins to rise, slowly and steadily, preparing your body for the transition back to wakefulness. By the time you open your eyes, your temperature has climbed back toward its daytime baseline, and the warming itself is one of the signals that helps you wake. This temperature curve is not a consequence of sleep, it is a driver of it. Research has shown that the degree to which your core temperature drops is correlated with the depth and quality of your sleep. A greater drop produces deeper, slow-wave sleep. A shallower drop produces lighter, more fragmented rest. Your body uses temperature as a tool, a thermostat that it adjusts with extraordinary precision to create the optimal conditions for each phase of the night's restoration. This is why a cool room helps you sleep. Not because cold makes you drowsy, but because a cool environment supports the body's own cooling process, making it easier for your core temperature to fall to the level that deep sleep requires. Your body is trying to cool itself. A cool room is simply cooperation. And this is why overheating during the night can fragment your sleep, pulling you into lighter stages or waking you entirely. The body's thermal plan has been disrupted, the descent has been interrupted, and the repair processes that depend on that descent, the deep, slow, restorative waves that ride the falling temperature like a boat on a receding tide, are diminished. The temperature curve of sleep is one of those details that, once you know about it, changes how you understand your own nights. That feeling of wanting to pull the blankets up as the small hours arrive is not mere comfort. It is a response to your own body's cooling. That tendency to throw the covers off if the room is too warm is not restlessness. It is thermoregulation, your body trying to maintain the conditions it needs for deep repair. Even here, even in something as simple as the warmth of your skin, the body is working with extraordinary purpose. Nothing is accidental. Everything serves the night. There is a molecule circulating through your body right now, or very soon, that deserves more attention than it usually receives. Its name is melatonin, and most people know it as the sleep hormone, the chemical that tells your body it is time to rest. This is true, as far as it goes. Melatonin is produced by the pineal gland in your brain, and its production is triggered by darkness and suppressed by light. As evening falls and the light around you dims, melatonin levels rise, creating the gentle pull toward drowsiness that you feel at the end of the day. But melatonin does something else, something that has nothing to do with making you sleepy. Melatonin is a powerful antioxidant, one of the most potent your body produces. As it circulates through your blood during the night, it does not merely signal sleepiness and then sit idle. It actively scavenges free radicals, the reactive molecules that are produced as byproducts of normal cellular metabolism and that can damage DNA, proteins, and the lipid membranes that enclose your cells. Free radical damage, also called oxidative stress, is one of the fundamental mechanisms of aging and cellular wear. And melatonin, moving quietly through your body in the dark hours, counteracts this damage molecule by molecule. Think of it as a nightly antioxidant bath. While you sleep, while your body is engaged in all the repair processes we have described, melatonin is circulating alongside them, cleaning up the chemical damage that the day's metabolic activity has left behind. It protects your DNA from oxidative harm. It stabilizes the membranes of your cells. It supports the other repair mechanisms that are working simultaneously, providing a cleaner chemical environment in which healing can proceed. This dual role of melatonin as both a sleep signal and an antioxidant guardian is one of those details that reveals how deeply integrated the body's systems truly are. The same molecule that tells you it is time to sleep also protects you while you sleep. The messenger and the healer are the same. The signal and the medicine arrive together in the same quiet package, delivered by the same small gland in the darkness of your brain. And melatonin's antioxidant work is not trivial. Some researchers believe it may be one of the mechanisms by which adequate sleep protects against the long-term accumulation of cellular damage that contributes to aging and chronic disease. Sleep does not just repair what is broken. Through melatonin, it may also protect what has not yet been damaged, providing a nightly shield against the slow, cumulative wear of time. Let us stay with time for a moment, because sleep has a relationship with time that extends far beyond the simple counting of hours. Every cell in your body has a clock, not a metaphorical clock, a literal, molecular timekeeping mechanism built from proteins that rise and fall in concentration over a 24-hour cycle. These cellular clocks are synchronized by the master clock in your brain, the suprachiasmatic nucleus we spoke of earlier. But they also operate with a degree of independence, ticking away in the cells of your liver, your heart, your kidneys, your skin, keeping each organ on its own schedule while remaining loosely coordinated with the whole. This means that the timing of biological processes in your body is not governed by a single clock, but by a symphony of clocks, all playing the same 24-hour piece, but each contributing its own part. Your liver metabolizes food on a schedule. Your kidneys filter blood on a schedule. Your bone marrow produces new blood cells on a schedule. And all of these schedules are aligned, in large part, by the daily rhythm of sleep and wakefulness. When this alignment is disrupted, when the clocks fall out of synchrony, the consequences are measurable and far-reaching. This is what happens during jet lag, when your master clock is suddenly forced to adjust to a new light schedule while your peripheral clocks, the ones in your organs, lag behind. It is what happens during shift work when the body is asked to be awake during hours that its clocks have designated for sleep. The misalignment is not merely uncomfortable, it is biologically costly. Studies of chronic shift workers have found increased rates of cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders, and immune dysfunction, not because working at night is inherently harmful, but because the body's clocks have been forced out of their natural harmony. Sleep is the great synchronizer. It is the event around which all the other clocks are organized. When you sleep at a consistent time each night, you reinforce the alignment of these clocks, keeping the symphony in tune. When sleep is irregular, fragmented, or insufficient, the clocks begin to drift, each organ following its own slightly different rhythm, and the coordination that makes your body function as a unified whole begins to fray. This is one of the quieter reasons why consistent sleep matters, not just the amount of sleep, but the regularity of it. Your body is not merely counting hours. It is maintaining a temporal architecture, a structure of time that organizes everything from hormone release to immune function to DNA repair, and sleep is the keystone of that architecture. Without it, the structure holds. Without it consistently, the structure begins to shift. There is something worth knowing about what happens to sleep across the span of a human life. Because the journey of sleep is not the same at every age. It changes, it evolves. It adapts to the body's shifting needs across the decades, and these changes tell their own quiet story about what the body needs most at different stages of its existence. A newborn baby sleeps up to 17 hours a day. This is an extraordinary amount of sleep by adult standards, but it makes perfect sense when you understand what the newborn brain is doing. In those first months and years of life, the brain is constructing itself at a pace that will never be matched again. Neurons are forming connections at a staggering rate. Synapses are being built, tested, strengthened, and pruned in an ongoing frenzy of neural construction that lays the foundation for everything the child will ever think, feel, learn, and remember. And approximately 50% of a newborn's sleep is spent in REM. 50%! Half of all their sleeping hours devoted to the stage of sleep most associated with neural development, synaptic wiring, and the integration of new experience into existing brain architecture. By comparison, an adult spends only 20 to 25% of sleep in REM. The newborn brain is building itself, and REM sleep is the construction site. As the child grows, total sleep time gradually decreases. A toddler may sleep 12 to 14 hours. A school-age child, 10 to 12. A teenager, 8 to 10, though many teenagers get less than this, and the consequences are well documented. By adulthood, the recommended range settles to 7 to 9 hours, though individual need varies. But it is not just the total amount of sleep that changes. The architecture changes too. Children spend more time in deep, slow-wave sleep than adults do. Their delta waves are larger, their slow-wave periods longer and more robust. This abundance of deep sleep supports the physical growth that characterizes childhood. Growth hormone, released during these deep stages, is not just a repair signal in children, it is the engine of growth itself. Children literally grow taller during sleep. The lengthening of bones, the expansion of cartilage, the building of new tissue, all of it is driven in large part by the growth hormone released during the deep sleep of childhood. This is why children who are chronically sleep deprived sometimes show growth delays. It is why the common parental observation that their child seemed to grow overnight is not entirely figurative. Growth does happen overnight. The growth happens in the dark. As we age into our later decades, sleep changes again. Deep, slow-wave sleep diminishes. The delta waves become smaller, less robust. The time spent in the deepest stages of physical restoration decreases, sometimes significantly. This decline in deep sleep is one of the reasons older adults often report feeling less physically restored by sleep, even when they spend adequate time in bed. REM sleep remains relatively stable across much of adulthood, declining more gradually than deep sleep. But the overall architecture of the night shifts, becoming lighter, more fragmented, more easily disrupted, the ability to maintain long, unbroken stretches of sleep decreases. Awakenings during the night become more frequent. These changes are normal. They are part of the natural evolution of sleep across a lifetime. But they underscore something important. Sleep is not a fixed, unchanging process. It is a living system, responsive to the body's needs at every stage of life, adapting and adjusting as those needs change. The sleep of a newborn is not the sleep of a teenager, is not the sleep of a middle-aged adult, is not the sleep of an elder. Each has its own character, its own proportions, its own quiet wisdom. And at every age, the fundamental principle remains the same. The body heals while you sleep. The mechanisms may shift in emphasis. The proportions may change. But the work continues, night after night, year after year, from the first sleep of infancy to the last sleep of old age. There's a story from the history of sleep science that is worth telling here. Not for its drama, but for what it reveals about the sheer necessity of what your body does each night. In 1964, a 17-year-old high school student in San Diego named Randy Gardner decided to stay awake for as long as he could as a project for his school science fair. A Stanford sleep researcher named William Dement heard about the attempt and came to observe, documenting what happened as the hours and then the days accumulated. Gardner stayed awake for 11 days, 264 hours. It remains the longest scientifically documented period of sustained wakefulness in a human being. What happened to him during those 11 days is instructive, not as a cautionary tale, but as a quiet demonstration of how profoundly the body depends on sleep. By the second day, Gardner's ability to focus had deteriorated noticeably. By the fourth day, he was experiencing irritability, difficulty with short-term memory, and mild hallucinations. By the seventh day, his speech had become slurred, his coordination impaired, his mood unstable. By the end of the experiment, he was experiencing significant cognitive impairment, paranoia, and vivid hallucinations that blurred the boundary between waking and dreaming. He did not suffer any permanent damage. When the experiment ended, he slept for 14 hours and 40 minutes and woke feeling essentially normal. His body, given the opportunity, repaired what 11 days of deprivation had disrupted. The healing processes were not broken. They had merely been postponed, building up pressure like water behind a dam, and when the dam was finally opened, restoration rushed in. What this experiment demonstrated, gently but unmistakably, was that the body cannot forego sleep indefinitely. The processes that occur during sleep are not optional. They are not luxuries. They are maintenance so essential that the body will eventually override the conscious mind's desire to remain awake, forcing sleep upon a person whether they consent to it or not. In Gardner's final days, he experienced microsleeps, brief involuntary episodes of sleep lasting only seconds, in which his brain simply shut down momentarily, grabbed a few seconds of restoration, and then returned him to wakefulness. The body will not be denied. Sleep is not a suggestion, it is a requirement, written into the deepest code of every nervous system that has ever evolved. And yet, there is nothing frightening about this. The story of Randy Gardner is not a story about the dangers of sleep deprivation. It is a story about the extraordinary resilience of the body's healing systems. Even after 11 days without sleep, the repair mechanisms were intact. They were waiting. They were ready. And the moment sleep was allowed, they went to work, restoring in a single extended night much of what had been lost over nearly 2 weeks. Your body wants to heal you. It is designed to heal you. It has been healing you every night since the day you were born. And no matter what kind of day you have had, no matter how tired you are, no matter how long it has been since you last slept well, the machinery of restoration is still there, still ready, still waiting for the permission that only sleep can give. There is an aspect of sleep's healing that we have not yet mentioned, and it involves something you do during the day so naturally that you may never think of it as connected to sleep at all. It involves learning. You learn things every day, not always in formal, deliberate ways. Sometimes learning is explicit, the memorization of a fact, the practice of a skill, the study of a new idea. But much of your daily learning is implicit, absorbed without conscious effort, woven into your experience without your awareness. The way a new route becomes familiar after you have driven it a few times. The way a face becomes recognizable. The way a sequence of movements becomes fluid with repetition. All of this is learning, and all of it depends on sleep. Studies have shown that sleep does not merely consolidate what you have already learned. It can actually enhance it. Musicians who practice a difficult passage and then sleep perform measurably better the next day than musicians who practice and then remain awake for the same period. The improvement is not just retention, it is refinement. The brain, during sleep, does not simply save the recording, it edits it. It smooths the rough edges, it strengthens the connections that matter and weakens the ones that do not. The musician wakes up and finds that the passage flows more naturally, that the fingers know where to go with less conscious effort, that something is improved in the absence of practice. This phenomenon has been observed across many domains: motor skills, language learning, pattern recognition, problem solving. The sleeping brain is not passive in its relationship to what you have learned. It is actively working on it, refining and integrating and improving, so that when you return to the material, you are not starting from where you left off. You are starting from somewhere slightly ahead. There is a lovely paradox in this. The best way to get better at something is sometimes to stop doing it, to walk away, to sleep, and to let the quiet, unconscious processes of the night do what conscious practice alone cannot. And this brings us to something that many people have experienced, but few can explain: the experience of going to bed with a problem and waking up with a solution. The experience of struggling with a decision, turning it over and over in your mind without resolution, and then, after a night of sleep, finding that the answer seems obvious, or at least clearer than it did before. This is not folklore. It is not wishful thinking. There is a growing body of evidence that sleep, particularly REM sleep, facilitates creative insight by allowing the brain to make connections between ideas that the waking mind, constrained by logic and habit and the linear demands of conscious thought, is unable to see. During REM, the brain is free from the constraints of external reality, It is not processing incoming sensory information. It is not responding to the demands of the environment. It is, in a sense, free to play, to combine memories and ideas in novel ways, to explore associations that would seem absurd or irrelevant during waking, but that may, in some cases, reveal genuine connections. Some of the most famous creative breakthroughs in history have been attributed, at least anecdotally, to sleep. The chemist Auguste Kekulé reportedly dreamed of a snake biting its own tail and woke with the insight that the benzene molecule was structured as a ring. The singer Paul McCartney has said that the melody for the song Yesterday came to him in a dream. The mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan attributed many of his extraordinary mathematical insights to dreams in which formulas appeared to him fully formed. Whether these stories are literally true or have been embellished by memory is less important than what they point toward. The dreaming brain is not random, it is generative. It is making connections, testing associations, combining elements of experience in ways that the waking mind cannot replicate. And while most of these nocturnal experiments produce nothing of note, occasionally one of them produces something genuinely new, an insight, a solution, a way of seeing that was not available before. Sleep does not just preserve what you know, it can create something you did not know before, and it does this quietly, in the background, without any effort or intention on your part. There is a kind of generosity in this. The brain works on your behalf while you are absent. It takes the raw material of your day, the problems you struggled with, the questions you could not answer, the ideas that almost connected but did not quite, and it continues working on them through the night, assembling and reassembling, trying combinations that your conscious mind never considered. And sometimes, when morning comes, it hands you the result, a solution you did not earn through effort but received through rest. This is one more reason why sleep is not empty time. It is creative time. It is the time when the mind is most free, most unconstrained, most willing to follow associations wherever they lead. And the products of that freedom, while often invisible and unremembered, shape your understanding of the world in ways that accumulate over a lifetime. Let us come back, for a moment, to the body itself, to the physical reality of what is happening right now, or very soon, as you settle deeper into the night. Your breathing has probably changed since we began. You may not have noticed, because the change is subtle, a gradual slowing, a deepening, a shift from the shallow, variable breathing of wakefulness to the steady, rhythmic pattern of approaching sleep. Your diaphragm is moving with greater regularity now. The muscles of your chest and abdomen are relaxing, allowing your lungs to fill and empty with less effort, less control, more surrender. Your muscles throughout your body are releasing their daytime tension. Not all at once, but gradually, fiber by fiber, as the motor neurons that keep them engaged during waking hours begin to quiet down. Your jaw may be loosening, your shoulders may be settling. The small muscles around your eyes, the ones that spend the day squinting, focusing, reacting, are softening into stillness. Inside your circulatory system, the redistribution we described earlier is underway or soon will be. Blood is being directed away from the brain and toward the peripheral tissues, toward the muscles that will be rebuilt, the skin that will be renewed, the organs that will be maintained. Your blood pressure is falling, easing toward its nocturnal low, giving your blood vessels a period of reduced mechanical stress during which their inner linings can repair themselves. And somewhere in the marrow of your bones, in the spongy tissue at the center of your largest bones, the production of new blood cells continues around the clock, but with a nocturnal emphasis that ensures your circulatory system is replenished and refreshed by morning. Red blood cells to carry oxygen, white blood cells to defend against infection, platelets to seal any breaches in the walls of your vessels. The marrow works in the dark, as it always has, producing the cells that will carry you through another day. If you could shrink yourself down to the scale of a single cell and travel through your own sleeping body, what you would witness would not look like rest. It would look like the busiest construction site you have ever seen. proteins being assembled, membranes being repaired, waste being packaged and removed, signaling molecules being produced and dispatched, DNA being read and copied and error-checked, energy being stored and redistributed, communication between cells continuing in an unbroken stream of molecular conversation. The stillness you feel on the outside, the peace and quiet of a sleeping body, is an illusion created by the scale at which you experience yourself. At the cellular level, at the molecular level, the night is anything but still. It is one of the most active and productive periods of your biological existence. And yet, you feel peaceful. You feel still. You feel as though nothing is happening. This is, perhaps, the most elegant trick of all. The body does its most extraordinary work while creating the subjective experience of total rest. You feel like you are doing nothing, and that feeling of nothing is exactly the condition the body requires to do everything. Let us speak for a moment about what scientists believe the future of sleep may hold. Not the distant, speculative future, but the near future, the one that is already taking shape in research laboratories and clinical trials and the small glowing screens of wearable devices around the world. One of the most promising directions in sleep science is the development of personalized sleep assessment. Today, when you track your sleep with a wearable device, you receive basic information: how long you slept, how many times you woke, a rough estimate of your time in various sleep stages. But these measurements are crude compared to what may soon be possible. Researchers envision a future in which wearable sensors can measure not just the quantity and gross architecture of your sleep, but its quality at a much deeper level. Imagine receiving a morning report that tells you not just that you slept 7 hours, but how much growth hormone was released during your first deep sleep cycle, how effectively your glymphatic system cleared waste from your brain, how thoroughly your immune system was fortified, how completely your memories were consolidated. A sleep quality score, based on biomarkers that reflect the actual biological work your body performed during the night, rather than simply the time you spent in bed. This is not science fiction. The sensor technology, the biomarker research, and the computational power required to make this possible are all advancing rapidly. Within a generation, knowing not just how long you slept, but how well your body healed may be as routine as checking the weather. And beyond measurement, there is the possibility of gentle enhancement. We spoke of acoustic stimulation, the precisely timed pulses of pink noise that can amplify slow waves during deep sleep. Other researchers are exploring temperature modulation, using cooling pads and smart fabrics that adjust their temperature throughout the night to support the body's natural thermoregulatory curve, deepening slow-wave sleep by cooperating with the body's own cooling mechanism. Still others are investigating light exposure protocols, precise patterns of light and darkness in the hours before bed. They can optimize melatonin production and circadian alignment, not through supplements or drugs, but through the careful management of the body's own photosensitive pathways. The common thread in all of this research is a philosophy that feels distinctly different from the pharmaceutical approach to sleep that has dominated for decades. Rather than introducing foreign chemicals to force the brain into a sleep-like state, these approaches work with the body's existing mechanisms. They support what the body already knows how to do. They do not replace the gardener, they simply give the gardener better tools. It is conceivable, and many researchers believe it is likely, that within the coming decades, sleep will be prescribed as medicine. Not in the vague, general sense of a doctor advising you to get more rest, but in the specific, rigorous sense of a sleep protocol tailored to your individual biology, prescribed after surgery, after injury, after infection, after psychological trauma, with the same specificity and seriousness as a medication dosage. The dose, in this case, would not be a pill. It would be a set of conditions: the right temperature, the right darkness, the right timing, perhaps the right sounds, gently pulsing in rhythm with your delta waves, perhaps the right sense, cueing your brain to consolidate specific memories or support specific immune responses. a prescription for optimal healing, delivered not through chemistry, but through the careful optimization of the one process your body already uses to heal itself. This future is not guaranteed. Science moves carefully, and the distance between a promising laboratory result and a practical clinical application is often longer than anyone expects. But the direction is clear. The more we understand about what the body does during sleep, the more we can do to support it. And the more we support it, the more the body can do for itself. There is a deep beauty in this approach to medicine. It does not seek to replace the body's wisdom. It seeks to honor it, to create the conditions in which the body's own healing can proceed without obstruction. To step back, as the conscious mind steps back each night, and let the ancient, patient intelligence of the body do what it has always known how to do. There's one more thing to say before we turn toward the end of this night's journey together. It concerns something that is happening to you right now, or perhaps has already happened, and it involves a shift so subtle that you may not have noticed it at all. Your awareness has changed since we began. When you first started listening, your mind was likely still engaged with the remnants of the day, thoughts about tomorrow, fragments of conversation, the residue of plans and worries, and unfinished business. Your attention was present, alert, engaged with the words in a way that felt effortful, even if only slightly. But now, if you have been lying still, if you have allowed your breathing to slow and your muscles to soften, something has shifted. The thoughts are quieter. The edges of your awareness have blurred. You may be following these words from a different place than the one where you started, a place that is deeper, softer, more diffuse, a place that is closer to sleep than to wakefulness. This is not something you chose to do. It is something that happened to you as naturally as the cooling of your skin and the slowing of your heart. Your brain has been moving through its own transition, the beta waves of alert attention giving way to the alpha rhythms of relaxation, and then, perhaps, to the theta waves that mark the threshold of sleep itself. You have been descending. Not because you decided to, but because your body decided for you. And if you are still hearing these words, if you are still gently present, then you are in a remarkable place. You are at the boundary, the in-between space where wakefulness and sleep share a border, where thoughts become images and images become dreams, and the firm ground of conscious awareness gives way to something softer, something without edges, something that receives you rather than requires anything from you. This is where the night begins in earnest, not at some definite point, not with a click or a switch, but with a gradual dissolving, a slow release, like colors fading from the sky as dusk becomes night. You have already learned what awaits you on the other side of that threshold: the growth hormone, the immune mobilization, the glymphatic river, the memory consolidation, the emotional processing, the synaptic pruning, the antioxidant bath, the cardiovascular rest, the bone remodeling, the skin renewal, the gut regeneration, the cellular cleanup, the temperature regulation, the neurochemical reset. All of it is waiting. All of it is ready. And now, having heard what your body is about to do for you, you can let yourself go with a deeper appreciation of the extraordinary journey that sleep represents. Not a journey outward, to some distant place, but a journey inward, to the deepest and most hidden workshop of your own biology. You do not need to remember any of this. You do not need to hold on to the facts, the names, the mechanisms. Your body does not need your understanding to do its work. It needs only your absence, your willingness to step aside, your trust in the dark. And that trust is not misplaced. It has never been misplaced. Your body has kept its promise to you every single night of your life. Through every illness, every injury, every difficult day, every restless night, the healing systems have been there, waiting, ready, patient. They do not judge how well you slept. They do not withhold their work because you went to bed too late or woke too early. They simply do what they can with whatever time they are given, and they do it without complaint, without recognition, without your ever knowing. This is the quiet faithfulness of the body. It takes care of you in ways you will never fully appreciate, and it asks for nothing in return except the one thing you are offering right now: the willingness to rest. And you are part of something much larger than yourself. Every animal that has ever been studied sleeps. The fruit fly, with its tiny brain of 100,000 neurons, sleeps. The octopus sleeps, and its skin ripples with changing colors as it does, suggesting that it may even dream. The dolphin sleeps with half its brain at a time, keeping one eye open to watch for danger while the other hemisphere rests. The humpback whale sleeps suspended in the deep ocean, its massive body hanging motionless in the dark water. The brown bat sleeps nearly 20 hours out of every 24, one of the longest sleep durations in the animal kingdom. The giraffe, by contrast, sleeps as little as 30 minutes a day in the wild, often in episodes of just a few minutes, its long neck draped over its own body in a posture of extraordinary vulnerability. Sleep takes different forms. It occupies different proportions of the day. It occurs in different postures, in different environments, under different conditions of safety and threat. But it occurs in every species, without exception. Evolution, which has produced animals that can survive without eyes, without lungs, without blood, has never produced a complex organism that can survive without sleep. This universality tells us something important. Whatever sleep provides, it is not optional. It is not a luxury that sophisticated brains indulge in. It is a fundamental requirement of life, as basic as food, as essential as water, as non-negotiable as the oxygen in your lungs. And in this shared need, in this nightly surrender to unconsciousness, you are connected to every living creature that sleeps tonight. The dog curled at the foot of someone's bed, the bird roosting in the branches outside your window, the whale suspended in the dark Atlantic, the fly resting on a leaf in a garden you have never seen. All of them, right now, are engaged in the same ancient process. All of them are healing. All of them are letting go. All of them are trusting the dark to hold them while their bodies do what bodies have always done in the night. You are not alone in this. You have never been alone in this. Sleep is the one experience that connects you to every animal that has ever lived. There is a question that lives beneath all of these mysteries, one that is not scientific so much as philosophical, and it is worth holding gently for a moment before we let it go. Why does rest matter? Not biologically. We have explored the biology at length tonight, the growth hormone and the immune cells and the glymphatic river and the synaptic pruning. The biological answers are remarkable and they are real. But beneath the biology, there is a deeper question, one that has to do with how we understand ourselves and our relationship to time. We live in a world that often treats rest as the absence of productivity, as wasted time, as the unfortunate cost of having a body that cannot run continuously. Sleep, in this framing, is a necessary evil, something to be minimized, optimized, hacked, reduced to the barest minimum that keeps the machinery functional. But the biology tells a different story. The biology says that rest is not the absence of life. It is the deepest expression of it. The biology says that the 25 years an average person spends sleeping are not empty years. They are the years that make all the other years possible. The biology says that the most profound healing, the most essential maintenance, the most extraordinary coordination of cellular activity that your body will ever perform happens not during your most productive waking hour, but during your most surrendered sleeping one. Sleep is not an interruption of your life. It is the foundation of it. And every morning, every single morning, you wake up into a body that has been quietly rebuilt in the dark. You are yesterday's person, mended. You are tomorrow's person, prepared. You are the living proof that rest is not weakness, it is wisdom. And so, as you lie here now, perhaps at the edge of sleep yourself, consider this. You do not have to do anything tonight. The work has already been assigned. The schedules have already been written. The growth hormone knows when to arrive. The immune cells know when to multiply. The glymphatic river knows when to flow. The librarian knows which books to file. The gardener knows which branches to prune. The guardians know where to patrol. All of them are waiting. All of them are ready. All they need is for you to do what you are already doing. To lie still, to breathe, to let your thoughts soften and scatter like leaves on a quiet wind. To trust the dark. Your body has kept this promise every night of your life. It has never forgotten. It has never failed. And tonight, it will keep it again. Sleep is the body's oldest promise to itself. And the promise is this: lie down, and I will make you new. Your heart is slowing now, not because it is tired, because it trusts the dark enough to rest. Your temperature is falling. Your breathing is deepening. The fast, bright waves of your waking brain are giving way to something slower, something deeper, something as old as life itself. The river is about to flow. The gardener is about to arrive. The guardians are taking their positions. And you are exactly where you need to be, right here, right now, in this quiet room, in this quiet moment, at the gentle threshold between waking and sleep. Everything that needs to happen will happen. It always has. It always will. Your body knows the way. It has always known the way. So let go. Let the thoughts drift. Let the edges of the world grow soft. Let the darkness gather you in, not as an absence, but as a presence. The warm, quiet, ancient presence of a body that loves you enough to spend a third of your life repairing you without ever being asked. You are safe. You are held. You are healing. And by morning, you will be new. Not entirely new, not a different person, but a mended one, a clearer one, a version of yourself that has been washed clean and gently rebuilt, ready to receive another day, another set of experiences, another chapter in the long, beautiful, ordinary story of being alive. Rest now. The night will take care of the rest. Thank you for spending this time in the quiet laboratory. If something here tonight has been worth resting with, the comments are always open. There is no rush. And there are many more journeys waiting here whenever you would like to return. Rest well tonight. You are safe and you are healing.